The four things really which will determine the flavour of vegetables and to a large extent their nutritional value as well. What sort of soil they're grown in. Variety is really important. How they're grown, so just how much they are pushed on with fertiliser and water in particular. And then how quickly after harvest you eat them and how they've been treated between harvest and them reaching your table. A really great example of how horticulture has forgotten that actually someone's going to eat these at the end of the day. It's not just a pound note, it's actually someone's supper. Carrots, they're grown entirely for yield, uniformity, robustness during the packing process with total disregard for flavour. And as a result, the #1 variety in the UK, Nairobi, is just horrible. It's great virtue. You can drop it out of an aeroplane, it hit the ground, it won't break. When I once went to a carrot trial in the east of England, and there were about 50 welly-clad farmers walking up and down the fields. No one ever tasted a carrot the whole day. They just pulled them up and they whacked them on their boots. And if they could break them, they weren't interested. I mean, at Riverford, we've got a really well-balanced clay loam. It's about 30% clay. It's got quite a lot of silt and a small amount of fairly fine sand and a lot of organic matter and a lot of life. It's absolutely teeming with bacteria and fungi, particularly the mycorrhizal fungi which live around the plant roots. And those are the ones that are kind of nurturing the plant, really. And if they have a really good, intimate relationship with that mycorrhiza and with the soil around them, they do get a fairly steady flow of nutrients, which provides for their needs, but they do have to work a little bit for it. And then variety is incredibly important. I mean, every year new varieties are coming out which grow faster, they mature earlier, and every time you select for those factors, for cosmetic perfection, early maturity, high yield, you're losing the more subtle things that you can't measure, and flavour, nutritional value would definitely fall in that. And then it's how the vegetables are grown. So, they need enough water, but not so much that they're just awash with the nutrients all the time. So in particular with carrots and potatoes, I mean, you can really push them on with potatoes, probably almost double the yield with irrigation, but flavour really suffers. And then having grown it and picked it, obviously the important thing is just to eat it as quickly as possible. I mean, a lot of vegetables can be kept in cold storage for weeks, and as a consumer you wouldn't know. They still look, I mean, cucumbers are an example. You can probably keep a cucumber for a month and it will have, almost no flavour and almost zero nutritional value, but you pick it up off the shelf and you probably wouldn't know that. I mean, so what are we going to do about this decline in flavour and indeed in nutritional content? Working through a supermarket, it is really difficult because they do just buy pretty much on price and cosmetic appearance. That's how most food is sold, I'm afraid. So the challenge for most growers is to produce the most uniform, shiny tomato at the lowest possible price, and obviously they're going to grow them really fast in order to do that. If I go to a market, I'm actually more attracted to the slightly oddly shaped fruit and vegetables. I suppose my knowledge as a vegetable grower is telling me that those ones have had a slightly harder life and they've probably grown a little bit slower. That's signalling to me that they're going to actually taste of something. So I suppose I would urge people not to be so obsessed by appearance. I do think organic vegetables are a good way to go. I don't think they're the whole, absolute, or indeed the only answer. For most of the vegetables we grow at Riverford, we have done quite a lot of research into varieties. All the vegetables that come in get tasted, and we do select varieties that taste better. I mean, there has to be a balance between taste and yield. The vegetables are at least grown in the soil. I mean, an absolute founding principle of organic farming is that you look after the soil, and the soil then looks after and feeds the crop, as opposed to just viewing the soil as something to get it to stand up in and feeding the crop as much as possibly with soluble nutrients. I would say this as a grower, wouldn't I? But the best thing you can do to try and get your hands on some decent tasting vegetables is to buy it directly from the grower. So it's probably going to have come to you faster. You then, by having a relationship with that grower, you both have an incentive to try and produce a vegetable that actually tastes of something, as opposed to something that just looks right and is cheap. Let's get back to growing vegetables, in soil that has really been loved and looked after, soil that's really going to bring out the flavour and produce the most tasty vegetables, like we do at Riverford.